Let's talk about Cathedral's album, Forest of Equilibrium.
And the number one album, because of how much I hated it when I first heard it to how much I love it now, would have to be Cathedral's first album, Forest of Equilibrium. It was just so slow when I first heard it, but I was looking for the fastest of the fast. I was into Brutal Truth and Napalm Death and stuff like that, and I figured, hey, Earache Records, this has got to be, same label as those two bands, so it's got to be good. So, and I go into it, and it's just a slow, droning, extremely slow. That I was like, what is this shit? I hated it so much. And then, a few years later down the road, I start getting into some of the slower stuff. I hear The Incomplete from Obituary, and I hear Disembowelment's Transcendence into the Peripheral, and then I get into My Dying Bride, and then I come back to this album and I revisit it. And that's when it clicks, so probably towards the mid-90s is when this album really started clicking with me. But when I had the cassette, listened to it the first time, and I don't even think I listened all the way through it. I just, because the first song is unbelievably long, especially for 1991, it's over 11 minutes. So I was just not having it at the time. But now I'd put it in my top 50 albums of all time.
Hi, welcome to Garage Geek. That was Captain Ron at Aquatic Records. His channel title is Aquatic Records with Captain Ron. So when I heard Captain Ron review this album, I was very, very intrigued. This was an album that he listened to and he couldn't even finish it. It was not what he was expecting. And he put it aside for a few years. And then when he came back to it, he absolutely loved it. He called it slow, droning. He hated it, and he even described it as being shit. But then he did a 180, and he actually loves it, and he described it as one of his top 50 albums of all time. So when I heard all of this, I thought to myself, wow, I really have to listen to this album. I have to give it a try. Now, this album is Cathedral's first album, and it is considered a classic of doom metal. Now, before I get into the whole album, I do want to say that this album is absolutely slow. He is right. And when it comes to droning, that's also correct. I would also like to say that I heard Black Sabbath dripping all over this album. Maybe that's just me, I don't know, but almost every track I just heard early Black Sabbath. Okay, track number 1 is a really long song, as Captain Ron stated, and even the title's really long. It's called Picture of Beauty and Innocence, and in parentheses, intro, commiserating the celebration. That's the entire title. So at the beginning of this album, which introduces the entire album, you hear this idyllic flute and guitar strumming, and it sounds so peaceful and idyllic. And then all of a sudden, this really dark cloud descends. The music totally changes, and it's like this storm just came over. Like you're having a picnic, and then all of a sudden, the air pressure just drops. It's actually pretty cool. Oftentimes I hear people describe some heavy metal music as sludge. And to me, this song sounded like slow, heavy, ponderous sludge. Like you had to sludge your way through the sound on this track. Again, that's not a bad thing. That's just the type of sound that I heard. Now, the lyrics on this song are pretty interesting. I think some of the lyrics set up some themes in this album, so I'm going to read you some. Our pleasures be joyless, doleful experiences. We seek not life's beauty, but cherish its funeral aspects. In the toil to exist, we excrete individuality. A wealth of treasures be ours to take possession, yet we break bones and gruel to savor simulations. In fact, I'm going to go back to an earlier quote. In the toil to exist, we excrete individuality whilst captivating internment in cloned identity. So there seems to be some themes here that they're always seeking the dark. They're always wanting painful and sad experiences, and that they try to hide their individuality in simulations or things that aren't real. The words throughout the album are kind of strange, and in fact, that's going to be one of my criticisms at the end. So we'll get back to the lyrics. Song number 2 is called Ebony Tears, and it begins with this heavy, heavy sigh, like, it's like this big, long sigh. Like this guy had something on his shoulders and he just needed to like release it. Now, what's interesting about a lot of this album is we have that death metal voice, right? But it's so slow that the lyrics are understandable. That was something I really appreciated. Listen to these 2 lines of lyrics. Enlightened by degradation, the only pleasure is pain. So the lyrics seem to say that it's only when we have our deepest, darkest experiences like pain and humiliation, degradation, that's the only time we can reach true enlightenment or we can actually experience true pleasure. Now, to me, these lyrics seem very S&M. I don't know if that's too glib for you out there, but again, I'm gonna talk about the lyrics near the end of this video. The 3rd song is called Serpent Eve, and this song really does change the first half, and there's a second half. Song number 4 is called Soul Sacrifice. And whereas song number 3 was really, really slow, this one is a bit faster. But there's something interesting on this song. It's like each line is a 1-2 or like a call and response. And it almost made me feel like there were 2 singers. One to sing the first half of the line and the other to sing the second. But I'm not sure if that's true. If not, the singer did a good job of doing this back and forth. The 5th song is called A Funeral Request. And one really interesting thing about this song is the variety of the voice. So let me go ahead and talk about the voice here. Now, again, this is that death metal voice, but I heard so much variety in the singing. Like almost every song, you could hear something different that the singer was doing with his voice. And I think the reason that it's so clear is because the music is so slowed down that you could hear the nuance. And what's interesting for me is, since I don't know much about death metal and this kind of singing, I didn't realize that there can be so much variety. And so the singer in this band is showing me how much variety there can be in this type of singing. The penultimate song is called Equilibrium, and this song actually has a lot of instrumental parts. In fact, I think the most of the end, like the last 2 minutes or so, is instrumental. And the 7th song, the last song, is called Reaching Happiness, Touching Pain. And that, again, talks about that theme. Now, whereas many of the songs we have short lines, this one had like almost paragraphs in it. And it actually felt like a really dark sermon. As promised, I want to talk about the lyrics. The lyrics, to me, since this is death or doom metal, death metal, it's doom metal, sorry. If there's a difference, it's doom metal. Now, since this is a doom metal band, I would expect the lyrics to be dark, but I kind of have a problem with them because I don't believe in the philosophy of these lyrics. Like, we have to go to a deep, dark place. We have to be in a constant state of agony in order for our lives to have meaning, in order for us to experience true joy, that we have to be humiliated. I just don't buy into this philosophy. So I had a problem with the S&M feel of the lyrics. From what I've seen, of all the people that I've been talking to who like this type of music, it doesn't seem like any of them are into that. I'm wondering, a big takeaway from this album is lyrics can be inspiring in songs. So what about these lyrics inspire? Why would I want to live my life in such a way where I'm degrading others or becoming a target of humiliation and degradation? So for me, that's a big takeaway. I still need to understand that aspect of these songs. But I am going to say this. I absolutely love this album. This is a keeper. I would listen to this. In fact, every time this album came up in my playlist, I sat back and I went along for the ride. This is so slow and droning and ponderous that I didn't mind having it as background music. It's, in a sense, almost, but not quite, almost like listening to instrumentals. I don't know what it is about this album, but I really, really enjoyed it. I would highly recommend it. If you don't like heavy, heavy metal, you actually might give this album a try. This might be your stepping stone into this. But again, the one problem I have is with the lyrics. So I would love for any of you to comment about what about this type of lyrics is appealing. I want to thank Captain Ron at Aquatic Records with Captain Ron for being my co-host for this episode. And I want to also thank him to turning me on to this amazing album. I would definitely buy this album. The album art is gorgeous. I would love to have it. Just to let you know, when I was doing my research, there's actually an expanded version of this that has, I don't know, I forget how many, but 3 or 4 extra songs that was an EP that they added together. It might be worth searching that out. Again, I want to thank you for watching and thank you for your support.